He's done it! 4! Balotelli! Aguero! Cahill! Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again! What a goal by Tim Cahill!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Premier League Nightclub podcast. My name is Damon and with me I have Woody. And Woody, it's not just you today. I do have someone to my right who has finally returned. Sam, how are you? How was your trip? Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, it was a good trip, boys. Been away for about four weeks altogether.
Yeah, I think pretty much the whole of the month, December.
Yeah, all of December I was away for, and then so I got back to Australia on the 23rd of December, and then went away down the beach for a week, and now I'm back and ready to get stuck back into it. So I'm glad you invited me back.
Yeah, no, of course. Welcome back anytime. And Woody, obviously today is your last episode for about 3 weeks, if I'm correct?
Hopefully 2 if all goes well, but nonetheless, yeah, it'd be definitely 2 or 3. Heading off to Europe with the fam, so I think I said last week my dad and I are getting tickets to the Tottenham-Liverpool game.
Yep, that's actually like next round now. Can you
It
believe
is.
it?
I know, it's nuts. Yeah, so it's the last game of next round, so I'm pretty keen.
That should be unreal. I think that game's at an absolute horrific time in Australia, the old 4:30 or 3:30 game.
Yeah,
so
it's horrible.
I can't, you might have to give us a first-hand experience of how that was next week. But yeah, other than that, obviously a few things big happen on New Year's Day. It's the New Year, first podcast of the year.
So happy New Year to all.
Yeah, happy New Year to
Happy New Year, Sammy.
Yeah, happy New Year to you, Sam.
Thanks,
Woody.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit of love.
Boys.
That's all good.
Boys.
Arsenal kicked off their new year in fine fashion. Of course, Aston Villa as well turned around their poor form to have a big win at Burnley. And also, before we get stuck into those two games and the quickfire results, we do have a special guest coming up later in the show. Mitch Cleary from AFL.com to talk about his trip to Europe. I think he might have attended the Manchester derby, so he'll have lots to talk about in regards to that. Boys, you excited for that?
Sure, mate. He's someone that we have definitely engaged with in terms of his content production for the last few years now, being huge AFL supporters. But yeah, so keen to have him on. He's had a huge summer over there in England and watch heaps of games. Very, very jealous, actually.
Yeah, very exciting. But Woody, as I said, before you get stuck into anything else, give us those quick fire results.
To start off the round, Brighton and Chelsea drew 1-1. Villa down Burnley 2-1. Leicester destroyed Newcastle 3-0. Watford, on a red card, beat Wolves 2-1. Southampton down Tottenham 1-0. West Ham destroyed Bournemouth 4-0. City down Everton 2-1. Palace and Norwich drew 1-1. Arsenal beat United 2-0. And to cap off the round, Liverpool beat Sheffield, the Mighty Blades, 2-0.
All right, so we did mention that Arsenal kicked off their year in fine fashion. Their best performance in a very long time. Arteta getting the first win. So let's get stuck straight into that one. Arsenal versus Manchester United.
Pepe with the corner. Dangerous ball in. De Gea can't hold it. Socrates capitalises. And just before half-time, that man Lacazette has been involved in so much good stuff for Arsenal this evening. Gets across the front, first man, flicks it on. 2-0 to the Gunners.
Yep, so 2-0 is how that one finished. Pretty dire second half, but the job was done for Arsenal.
Yeah, as you said, Damon, I think it was Arsenal's best performance of the year to date. I mean,
obviously,
including 2019. Couldn't really fault their performance, but that being said, United weren't all that flash, were they?
Nah, they looked pretty spooked in the first half, to be honest with you. And I think a lot came down to Arsenal's pressure on the ball as well. The way Arteta came out to play, he structured Arsenal very well in that they very high press, much due to Lacazette's running up top as a striker. But they pressured United for most of the first half, and it showed because they got the 2 goals to show for it. And United didn't look like they were providing anything other than past their midfield line.
It was very similar in how they started against Chelsea the game earlier. And so, it was a big question. The only question mark really after that first half was Arsenal going to be able to maintain that level of performance? And let's be honest, they probably didn't. But the job was done because they were able to get that second goal, unlike against Chelsea. And to be honest with you, we can talk about United and how they really failed to adapt to the situation.
But I feel like we do that too often.
Yeah,
even though I've been away for a month, I still feel like the same dialogue with United is repeated. Although I did miss their big big win a few weeks ago. But we'll stop talking about that now.
No, they did. It was definitely a case of slow reaction from United. But yeah, Arsenal and their signing, Nicolas Pepe, probably finally the performance that the Arsenal fans were waiting for. He definitely still hasn't justified the price tag yet, but Woody, you'd have to say that it was a almost flawless performance.
Mate, it was. He jumped into the game, and right from the get-go, he had Luke Shaw on a platter. It was
on skates.
On skates. Had him on skates, mate. It was beautiful to watch, and I think that very much came down to Ozil, Alba, Laka, and Pepe all starting. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think for the first time this season.
I think, well, it definitely was the first time it worked all season if it wasn't the first time they started.
Exactly. I know they've definitely come on and played together when one of them has had a substitute appearance.
Yep.
But I don't think they've all started together. But nonetheless, Nicolas Pepe provided the bloody goods on the weekend. 100% pass accuracy, 100% passes in the opposition half, 50 touches, 16 duels, 2 shots goal, creating chances left, right, and centre with 4 for the day. And like I said, had Luke Shaw on skates, mate. It was a game to forget for Luke Shaw.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think Luke Shaw probably. I felt sorry for him a little bit because it's not like he necessarily was playing badly. I'm just going to be really harsh here and say it might just honestly Pepe standard wise was too good for him, and would be too good for him 9 times out of 10. I thought he didn't get much help from Nemanja Matic in that left-handed side of midfield, but nevertheless, I thought just the way Nicolas Pepe probably could have had another one hit the post after David De Gea, a really horrific pass out of the back. It could have been even bigger for Nicolas Pepe. It was quite funny when he did get substituted off. I don't think he really wanted to come off. And you know how the new rules now, you have to come off.
Yeah.
You have to come off on the side pretty much where you are.
Yeah.
And he didn't really want to. And then once he did, he pretty much got his own walk around.
Lap of honour.
Lap of honour, yeah,
Lap
that's
of
the
honour.
phrase I'm looking for. And he was soaking it up, and good on him. He probably would have been starting to get into his head how he'd been playing this season.
Yeah, and
so
when a player was playing like that, you definitely don't want to get him. Wouldn't want to come off. But I think it was extremely showed Arteta's technical awareness.
it was a mature substitution.
For sure, it was because in the second half, Luke Shaw probably had the better of Pepe before he came off.
Yeah.
So it was good. As soon as he was out of the game, he came off to give new blood, and he didn't let Luke Shaw get over Pepe for too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Pepe's first half probably comes down to the way that Mesut Ozil played, and he was in full swing again.
I was going to say, since I think out of all the players in the Premier League this year, has there been a more up and down resurgence of a season than Mesut Ozil to date? Because
Danny Ings.
but you look at the change in the manager and Unai Emery's treating of Ozil and not even having him on the bench earlier in the season. And we look at how that's changed and how Arsenal have now seemed to get it quick. You just said they just started their what is it? What's a 4?
The attacking front four.
Attacking front four.
For the first time. Look what happened against United. So I think moving forward with that, it's an interesting thing to look at from where they started.
What stood out to me was that Ozil ran the most on the field of any player, with
which is
11
unlike Ozil, really.
11.54 kilometres for the day. It's just, as you said, Woody, it's just not the Ozil we've come to know. He is 31 years old now. It's not like he's going to change his whole...
He's not a green shoot anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not going to be able to deliver that every single game. And look, I think Arteta's clearly offering him something, whether it be...
off the field.
Just energising him somehow, getting him pumped up for these games, because I thought he started really brightly against Chelsea, then faded. But nevertheless, Ozil's doing what he's being asked.
Well, I think the way that they're almost structuring it around him. Obviously, they're playing a 4-2-3-1.
Well, of course, Ozil did play his best football with Arteta behind him in midfield a couple of years ago, so maybe there's something in that.
But I think the way that they allowed Ozil to sort of ghost between the lines and have a bit of a free-flowing and roaming sort of position, it allowed him to get in behind United's midfield and probably make Matic look like a bit of a bystander, realistically. And then also the way that it allowed him to feed the pace.
Yeah.
Pace in front of him, pace beside him, either side.
Well, Woody, just on how those front four complemented each other so well, we spoke about Lacazette against Chelsea and how he probably had a real ordinary day for his standards, but he really bounced back this week, didn't he?
Yeah, look, for me, Lacazette did so much underappreciated work, and I think it was actually only highlighted by the diehard Arsenal supporters after the game through their socials. But if looking at Lacazette's game, he didn't have the flashy numbers, he didn't have the amount of successful passes, and he didn't have probably the ridiculous impact or the goals that he would like to have during the game. But what he did do was constantly run at the defense.
He did the things he could control.
Exactly, and that's the little stuff going up for the duels, even though he's going to lose against Harry Maguire and Lindelof because he doesn't have the height. He kept doing it. He put in the dirty work, got physical with the centre backs. But then the way he stretched the defense, did a Yui, came back,
chucked a Yui,
fanged it, and then came back, and then his hold-up play stretched the defence. But it wasn't just sit on the centre-back's shoulders. It was push them back, come forward, grab Ozil's pass, flick it out to the sides for Aubameyang and Pepe to do their thing. And that's probably what allowed Pepe to come in and drift in so much. So, I mean, it is really good to see that Lacazette is no longer probably just the goals and assists defines his game. It's more what he does, considering he's got so many stars sitting in the three and behind him.
He's got some help for the first time.
He does. And I think with Arsenal's good run of injuries, it's fortunate that they have those four starting at the same time, and hopefully it can continue. That's the big question.
In the Premier League nightclub fashion, we're going to have to talk about United now. And I know we've spoken about them a lot this year, but Damon, what is going on with their lineup at the moment? What's happening?
Well, it's a really interesting way of looking at it. Now, they set up exactly the same way they set up at the Etihad and when they faced Tottenham at Old Trafford. And I think you could understand why Solskjaer put out the team he did. Obviously, the two main ones that really struggled on the day were Luke Shaw, who we've already spoken about, and Jesse Lingard. Now, I can understand why those two started, especially Jesse Lingard. He has a great record against Arsenal, especially at the Emirates, and of course didn't play a few days earlier, so he had the fresh legs. But for mine, the manager at fault, clearly, Solskjaer, at that point in the first half, it wasn't completely on him. Okay, that team should have been playing better. But the thing where I was really disappointed in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the fact that he made that substitution in the 56th minute. You just compare it straight away to what Lampard did the days earlier.
23 minutes in.
And he made that ruthless change and it completely changed the game. I'm not saying it would have happened, but you just wonder what would have happened if an Andreas Pereira came on for Jesse Lingard before Arsenal found that second goal. Yeah. Because United looked way better team in that second half with Pereira on. Now look, when we're all experts in hindsight about who should start, so that's why I'm not slating the starting lineup. It had worked previously, so why not try it again? I just think it was the lack of change urgently which cost United, and ultimately, could those little moments cost Solskjaer his job in the long run?
I think it was just one of those things where, and I think Lampard showed great credit to Lampard for doing it last week, but it's the classic case where you stick with the lineup because not many people make subs in the first half, and hopefully it's going to come good. Now, when Lampard did that with Jorginho, he knew it wasn't going to come good because he didn't want to concede the early goal.
Yep.
But the thing is, with United, they'd already conceded the early goal, so I think almost in a sense, the way they almost had to let the lineup come good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just didn't come. That's the thing.
And then they shot themselves in the foot when they conceded the second, I suppose, and then it was
especially off a corner, that would have frustrated.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because when you compare it to the Lampard decision, if you have, as Woody said, conceded the early goal already, I think,
and which there were multiple opportunities where Chelsea could have conceded the early goal as well.
You mean the second goal, obviously, because they already had.
Yeah, and I'm talking about they could have gone 2-0 down.
Yeah. I get that.
A lot of opportunities.
I think by the time the second goal was scored for United, it was like, okay, we need to change it now. I think I'm on.
I get that. And as I said, we're all experts in hindsight. So, question to pose to you guys to wrap this game up, and that is, look, I know Arsenal have only just won the one game out of their three with Arteta in charge. But you have to say, even their draw against Bournemouth and their loss against Chelsea, they look a much better team than they have previously this season. Do you see Arteta being able to bring this Arsenal team together and make a charge for the top four? Or is it just about setting the foundations?
I'm not sure. I mean, he's been trained, he's been groomed by Pep. So he's got the best coach in, the coach of the
coach of the coach.
Coach of the coach. So, I'm a bit sick. If anyone could sort of formulate a way to bring Arsenal out of the rut that they've been into under the late Wenger days and then into the Unai Emery failure that it was. I think he's got the potential, but it's hard for me right now to say he's got it because it is only a 1 of 3 to start off.
I think if anything, I can't say it will happen, but you can see them almost showing shades of a City team just because of how much. And hear me out for a second. Pep plays the Spanish way: tiki-taka, possession, structured football, incision plays. Yeah. Right?
We know Arteta's going to bring some of that. He can't.
But that's the way Arteta played in the Spanish national team anyway.
That's true.
And that's the way he would have trained under Pep.
Yeah.
And even in the early days when he played for Everton as well, that's similar to the way they played. They restructured that. When he played for Everton, they almost restructured the way they played a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was almost, in a sense, Arteta's been playing this way, his whole career. Now, I'm not saying it's going to emulate into the Arsenal team because that's unrealistic to say that
at this point,
City will be or Arsenal will be a carbon copy of City. But you can see shades of the way that Ozil played. The ghosting midfielder is a very Spanish way to play the game.
Yep,
and that's
true.
the way Ozil played. So I can see shades of that coming into Arsenal's play.
For sure. Alrighty, were you happy to wrap that one up?
I think so.
Sweet. All right, let's move on to our next segment, the usual segment of winners and losers.
Ooh, first one back.
Oi, did someone say winners and losers?
Sure did, mate.
All right, Sammy, because it is your first one back, would you like to kick us off with your winner?
Okay, so my winner is West Ham, and just for a small little reason of David Moyes, he's off to a good start with the 4-0 win. And just another side note, Mark Noble from West Ham has now scored the most goals outside the box in their history. So
there you go.
Good on them.
It was a top start, wasn't it?
And they were blowing bubbles down there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Woody, your winner.
All right, so my winner of the week is Alazira Jahanbakhsh, and that's
that again.
Alazira Jahanbakhsh.
I've been practicing that.
I've been practicing so much, and it doesn't help that I've been staring at the bloody screen doing the graphic for 6 hours. Anyway,
it looks like it just that I couldn't even attempt that.
Yeah, it's Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh. Anyway, so complete 0 to hero moment last few weeks for the Iranian national winger. Jahanbakhsh scored his second goal in consecutive games after only going 26 appearances with nothing and over 18 months. Right, he was Brighton's record signing from Dutch side AZ Alkmaar, and he has copped a lot of flack on social media for being a horrible transfer pose, and a lot of the commentators as well say we don't know where Jahanbakhsh is going to go, and now I think he's almost like he's game by the numbers. What a week for him as well.
Has he silenced the critics?
For now
he has to, because he scored his first goal, and you could see how much it meant to him because both goals, especially the first one last week,
he was almost in tears.
Dropped to the ground in tears. Like, it was huge for him to come to the Premier League.
Shows how much it means to him.
Yeah, and forget that these guys are human sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, well, it was almost inhuman, the goal he bloody scored as well. The scissor. It was crazy. And you can catch that on our Insta at Premier League Nightclub as well. That
new
is
little
our
graphic setup as well.
Yeah, that is our first ever Nightclub news flash.
Yeah, you'll get the hang of it, Woody.
Yeah.
Hopefully the viewers get the hang of it too, because it is a bit of a different sort of way we're coming at them. But
yeah.
You explain that in the post.
Yeah, bloody oath I will.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, anyway, so heartwarming to see someone of his story and also the way the year he's had come on. So yeah, Graham Potter, go the Aussies, go Brighton, go Jahanbakhsh. Sammy, who's yours?
No, we already did.
We've done me, mate.
Damon, sorry, mate. Who's yours?
All right, mine's Watford, and what an unbelievable turnaround it's been in the past four or 5 games for Watford. They've been huge under Nigel Pearson. They've been re-energised, and their whole attitude towards playing has just completely changed. 2-1 win over Wolves on New Year's Day was massive. Of course, did it after a red card in the 70th minute. 10 men Watford holding out Wolves, and Wolves have been flying, let's be honest, for the last 3 months. So that was a massive win for them. I just start to think Nigel Pearson obviously pulled off that miracle with Leicester to keep them up the year before they did win the title. So he knows how to keep a team up. It was their first back-to-back win since February. Well, last February now. I can't even say February because it's a different year. But
so 2019 February.
Yep, it's been a
very tough year.
It has, and I think we spoke about last week, Woody, you and me, the introduction or reintroduction of Troy Deeney playing that just leadership role and how important that's been. So yeah, Watford suddenly looking like they are every chance to stay up. All right. Who wants to kick off the loser? I'll put it
Shotgun
up.
not.
Sure, I'll kick off. My loser this week is actually Newcastle. So, mate, the Maggies lost 3-0 to Leicester. Horrible game. If anything, it showcases how far they are off being even a mid-table team. Mm-hmm. They only had 23% possession for the game. 23% possession.
23.
Now, when you're rolling into a lineup with, like the Joe Linton and Yoshimura Muto coming in, they have not been in good form. Almiron is probably the only Newcastle guy that's actually shown promise.
They can't get the ball, apparently.
No, exactly. And the thing is, they defended and they got run ragged as well. Manquillo, Shelby, and Willems, 3 midfielders came off. They got run ragged with 23% possession. Another goalless play, and their strikers are still in horrible form. What a shitty round for them.
Can I just add to that, Woody?
Yeah.
I was looking at this the other day. Did you know Soyuncu for Leicester had 105 more passes than the most of a Newcastle player? He had about 130 passes for the game, and the most Newcastle player had about 25.
Oh my god.
That's so sad.
That's an unheard of stat.
It's incredible.
That's an unheard of stat.
It was dead set. Some of the most boring play I have seen.
I can't say I tuned in for that one.
Sam, who is your loser?
So my loser is Tottenham. I think just the loss to Southampton just sets them back again on the road to getting into the Champions League qualifying. I mean, they're now sitting 6th on the table, and
it's a bit of a gap now between.
There's a bit of a gap between them and Chelsea, and if they had won that, they would have been right on the toes. Maybe I think it was one or I can't remember.
2 points or something.
2 points behind, and it's just another setback in what's been a really turbulent year for Tottenham with the loss of Pochettino earlier and things like that. And I think it's
actually hard to wrap around we're in 2020, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I know. So much has happened in the 4 months that we've been doing this pod.
Especially over the Christmas period.
So many managerial changes.
Yeah, and even the Christmas period was just so hectic, having 6 eps in 3 weeks.
Yeah, far out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was just obviously unlucky with Kane's offside and things like that. That would have gotten them another point, but I think just a bit of a mare from Tottenham and one they needed to win.
Speaking of Harry Kane, actually, we had a bloke on our Insta who said that we didn't include RVP in our team of the decade demo that we put together last week.
I saw this. I did.
Yeah,
I did
and that
it was a bit of a heated debate.
Yeah, it was a bit of a heated debate, wasn't it? Because I was a bit surprised he came with RVP. And
how many years did RVP play in this decade?
5. I think
5. He wrapped up halfway through Van Gaal's era at Man United, so that would have been
15.
14, 15.
14, 15. Yeah, and at Oscar_Prescott14, RVP, genuine shout and a half, but I think what I was trying to say in the replies on the Insta was that, Kane has done it for almost a decade. And that's the thing. I think
his breakout year was 2014, I think.
2014 when he came back on loan from his third loan, I think.
He had a ridiculous fee for 15.
Yeah, and he's had 4 and he's had 4 20-plus goal seasons now as well. Went to the UCL, had a huge
won
season.
the Golden Boot at a World Cup as well.
Golden Boot World Cup, that's mate, players dream to have that trophy in their cabinet as well. But yeah, I think Kane, the way he finished off the decade was better than the way RVP finished off his career.
You'd also have to say the rise of Tottenham from what they were 6 years ago.
Completely, because they finished. They got very close to winning the league when Leicester won in 15-16.
Yep.
And that was much on the back of Harry Kane's 30-plus goal season. And on top of that, the last 5 years Tottenham have been right up there.
Champions League final, although he was injured for.
But still, he came back for it. Didn't have the greatest day, but still, Tottenham, what they are today, are a lot to do with Harry Kane. All right, believe it or not, we are actually still in the winners and losers segment because I still haven't done my loser.
Damo, who is your loser?
Thank you for asking, Woody. My loser is Norwich City, and again, they gave up late points after leading with 10 minutes to go. This time to Crystal Palace in a 1-1 draw. And look, I know, as I said it last week, when they're in those positions and you're in the spot you are on the table, you need 3 points, not 1. But the main reason they are my loser is because of, I apologise if my pronunciation is not correct.
Hey, we practiced this earlier in the season.
Emiliano Buendia. Did I get that right?
Buendia.
Tomatoes.
He has the third most assists in the league with 7. He's flying at the moment. He's got second most chances created in the league behind Kevin De Bruyne. When you look at how many goals Norwich has scored, it's incredible that he's up there with the best playmakers in the league this season. The reason Norwich are my loser is because he's out of contract at the end of this season. And if Norwich go down, I cannot see him staying with the Canaries in their quest to go back up.
And he's been on fire this season.
Yeah, he has.
Was it even a shout for our early team of the season exercise?
And I still think if it wasn't for the quality of some other midfielders, he might get in there. Well, he still could get in there next week. Sam, you might have something to say about that. All right. Let's get into our next...
Hold up.
Yes?
What? No one mentioned Danny Ings as our winner.
Yeah, I know.
How
he's
Danny
flying.
Ings?
He's flying.
He can be the podcast
Danny Ings
winner.
doing serious things.
Mate, did you see his touch?
Yeah, second in the Golden Boot and flicked, mate. That flick he had, poo, filthy.
Let's
And
move
about
on.
skates. Anyway, move on. Sorry.
Let's move on to our next game and final game, and that is Burnley versus Aston Villa.
Now Trezeguet. Wesley just about has enough pitch. That's nice to Nakamba. Lovely play this from Villa. Now Grealish. Oh, stunning! Aston Villa are on fire!
Yep, Villa were on fire. For the first time in a while, safe to say, of course, Burnley found a late consolation, but Villa were the better team all throughout the day and got the 2-1 win.
Absolutely, and boy, how much did they need this? They've been coming off some really, really poor form recently, with only the one other away win for the year, I believe. So it was huge that they got up here, and something that they needed, given they lost to Burnley last.
Yeah,
time.
they did.
Yeah, they did.
All right, Woody, you watched this one, which
Yeah,
I was
I
pretty
did.
impressed about because...
Mate, I've been keeping up with the villains.
Actually, it's probably just because you have a man crush on Jack Grealish. But
It's his nice blonde hair, isn't it?
It's his car. It's his calves.
He does have
I
ridiculous
swear we've
calves.
mentioned Jack Grealish's calves at least
Oh,
6,
every
7 times
episode,
now.
I reckon. Every
All right.
episode.
Now, Woody, you've been big on the formation that Aston Villa have played all season,
Yeah.
but you're also big on how they changed it finally come 2020. How did they do it, Woody? How did they get the win in this
Well,
one?
it's actually funny because last week and the week before, I've slated Villa both weeks. And it's because I said that Dean Smith was so rigid with the 3-4-3. And I tell you what, in a week where a lot of fans are calling for his outing, hashtag Dean Smith out was almost trending on Twitter, right? He switched to a 3-4-3, which was so surprising. It was actually really radical, but turns out he's actually done it in two cup games as well so far this season. But Tyrone Mings was coming back from injury, which I think
Plays a big part.
plays a huge part as well because Howes and the other one I can't remember his name, Konza were playing really well while Mings were out. But nonetheless, when Mings came back, he slotted straight into the middle of those two boys. And then from there, Villa it had allowed Villa to combat Burnley's aerial prowess. And looking back at the fixture earlier on this season, Villa actually conceded 2 goals via header, set pieces, from Burnley's attack. And they conceded, Chris Wood scored a goal via a header as well, but much of that came due to Villa's 3 at the back, and I think it played really well because it also played into Tyrone Mings' strength, and we've seen it. I'm rambling on a bit here because I'm so passionate about this. The way Mings plays for England as well comes through as that middle centre back, and it almost plays the ball through the midfield to Douglas Luiz and Marvelous Nakamba in the midfield, and I think that really allowed Mings to unleash the way he passes the ball and allowed him more time on the ball. So coming with that 3-4-3, I think, really almost allowed Mings to play as a deep lying playmaker and shift it off.
Yeah.
And if anything, it allowed more space on the wings for Grealish and Trezeguet to work their magic. And Grealish, obviously man of the match, forced the goal, which ended up being Wesley's first goal in, I don't know, bloody how long.
I believe it was 14, 13, something like that amount of Premier League games. Absolutely.
Oh.
I mean, last week
Drought
he
and a half.
should have scored against Ben Foster last week, but goodness me.
It's almost like a Karim Benzema drought. How long? That was a long drought.
It was a long drought, but he on
Yeah.
another note, he's actually one of the most underrated
he's
centre
really good at the
forwards
moment,
in
yeah.
the world. But yeah, I just think, well, for mine, Woody, I hate to cut you off, but Villa probably, as Sam said when we got stuck into this game, they desperately needed to win. And they almost got the exact opposite of luck, which they didn't need, and that was the VAR.
Yeah.
Come Jack Grealish's first, time putting the ball in the back of the net. Now, I do believe that if we can get honor offside, yes, black and white, I believe that then no one can really complain. But it does kill the kill the excitement of a goal. And I saw it firsthand. I'm not going to go back into Arsenal Man United, but when Pepe scored the first goal, there was a build-up. Maguire just kept Kolasinac onside. And I think a lot of Arsenal players and fans thought that potentially VAR was going to have a look. And if you look at the way that Arsenal had just scored against Man United, and the celebrations weren't as big as I would have liked to have seen. And again here at at Turf Moor, it was just interesting to see that, there was, if you ask any Burnley player in the build-up, they probably didn't even realise it was offside. But again, it's just that, if it's offside, I'm happy for it to call it, but it does kill atmosphere.
It goes back to that discussion we had a long time ago now about the fabric of the game.
Completely.
In terms of how much technology is playing a part. And I think there's no avoiding it anymore, unfortunately, because it's
instilled.
It's because football and these elite sports are such a commodity, they're such a business, it can't be wrong.
Yeah, it's a results-based business.
It's a results-based business.
You're so right, Sammy. You're so right.
I just think that it's something we're going to have to live with, and it's going to be that eeriness around when goals are scored, if it's going to get taken away, but it's something that we're going to have to live with from now.
I wonder where it will be in 10 years with it. You'd hope...
Mate, I wonder where it's going to be in a year and a half.
Technology is accelerating at such a fast-paced rate, so who knows how... I don't know, there might be a way that it's instantaneous, you know what I mean? There's a constant laser on the back line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hopefully we do get to that, because I just thought the way that Jack Grealish's goal was, disallowed, I thought for the first time, even though right or wrong, you can have your opinion, I just thought it left a bitter taste in my mouth watching that one. That was pretty grim for the pure football fan.
Yeah, and I mean, moving on to Burnley now, I think we need to be stated that...
Mate, their chances dried up.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Wood's goal for Burnley came from their first shot on target in the match, which came at the 80th minute.
I think last week when they beat Bournemouth, their first shot on target was in the 89th minute as well, and they won that one. So, goodness me, you're not wrong, Sam.
They need to shoot better.
Yeah, they do. They need to just get the ball more, to be honest. It's pretty dry football that Burnley have played for a long amount of time, but they now sit 15th on the table. And Woody, do you think they need to change something, or do you think they're going to grind it out like they quite often do?
No. I actually do think they need to change something, and I don't think it's the manager. That's for sure.
Yep.
But I do think the way they play with they consistently play long balls. And with that being said, they have no plan B. And Damon, we harped on it last week. The amount of teams that don't have a plan B is actually really frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. And sure, you've got Chris Wood up top who scores, so many goals via his head, and Barnes as well. They're double trouble.
We know what Burnley
Twin
bring.
Towers. We know what Burnley bring, but the thing is, they need
every other opposition.
They need something else.
It's one-dimensional at the moment.
Because the amount of times they play long balls in transition, and it's almost a faulted way they play, because in theory it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But it does, and it has, and it had. But now they need something else. They need a winger that has pace and delivery. They need a midfielder that can maybe crack the lines. They need more than just a long ball.
Yeah, for sure. And I think now with the rise of form of your Watfords, your Villa, and even maybe West Ham, I think Burnley might be looking over their shoulder a little bit. Well, if it wasn't for Bournemouth's form, they could very well be even lower on the table.
Well, if it wasn't for... I think Villa have now provided a blueprint of how to nullify Burnley.
Yeah, for sure.
And imagine if teams do it with better centre-backs.
Exactly.
And with a better midfield.
100%.
Okay.
All right.
So just one more question.
Yep.
For the Villa's win, what does it mean for their season now? And going into the January transfers, what are they going to do? Are they going to target new people? What's the go?
Well, there's been a bit of talk about Jack Grealish and what his future holds. Of course, some of the bigger clubs might come circling, but of course, we all always have that question of whether Grealish actually wants to leave Villa. He's gone down with them before and come back up. He's been with them for a really long time, so he's obviously probably one of the more loyal players in football these days. So I think that really helps Villa, for their sake, to keep him. But I just think right now, Villa, they need to, it's pretty cliche, but take it 1 week at a time. There'll be people planning for January, and Woody, I know you've got a little bit of opinion on how they should go about that, but I just think their results week to week are the most important thing, and whoever they face next up after the FA Cup break, not sure who it is off the top of my head, but they just need to make sure that they're doing everything in their power to get points to stay up.
Mate, I think with Wesley going down though, it really highlights a need for them to bring in a striker, because realistically, they haven't got that much. They got El Mohammadi, but he hasn't been that good as well this season. And Raul Ghazi is not a straight out striker. They need someone to play the lines, and Grealish is not going to fill that role. Mm-hmm. He's not going to play there. So I think they need to look for an out of form striker, similar to what Southampton did, and get a Danny Ings-esque output, and that you can pray for. There are Danny Ings out there. They're just sitting at the clubs.
They are. That's a very,
you know what I mean?
True statement.
Like the Batshuayi types, they're sitting there waiting for someone to come get them.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's where they need to look, especially in January. They need a lone player. They have to. And especially with Heaton going down, who knows? They need more than just one player.
For sure. Alrighty, let's wrap that one up because it is now time for something we've been waiting for a while. We've had it in the works for a while. I'm very excited. I don't know about you boys. I hope you are very excited. And I hope the listeners are excited because it is now time to talk to a reporter from AFL.com, Mitch Cleary, who we do have on the line, who's ready to talk all things football. Mitch, thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me, boys.
All right, do we just want to get stuck straight into the questions? Nick, I know you were pretty eager to ask a certain one to start off.
Yeah, look, we follow your Euro trip pretty heavily, and just wanted to jump straight into that one because it's been a big one on our socials that we've been sort of following as well. Firstly, how did you fall in love in Premier League that led you to that Euro trip? So how did you sort of fall in love with the world game?
I was thinking this before I came on the show, boys, and I reckon it traces back to a trip I went to Thailand when I was maybe 11 or 12, and I'm not sure if you realise how big the Premier League is, but it's absolutely off the charts in Asia, and sort of falling in love watching it at bars, buying all the jerseys down the streets. It was when sort of Ruud van Nistelrooy was going around for Man United and sort of fell in love with Man United that way, and I just think that whole energy of what Asia delivered maybe got me in love with the game, and sort of growing up, tend to watch a bit more Champions League and those sort of 7 a.m. starts back here in Australia, or the midnight starts when it was back on Fox Sports, and sort of just fell in love with it that way, and it didn't hurt having a few mates at school that were also pretty keen into the EPL as well.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. Obviously, that's how you fell in love with the game. But is it a family thing as well, or is it purely just a mates thing at school, or watched it on those school mornings?
Purely just a mates thing. But I used to go around on summer holidays and stay with my cousin. I still remember watching the Man United Roma Champions League win.
Was that the 7-1? I think that was the 7. Yep.
Yeah. With him on a Wednesday or Thursday morning, whatever that would have been, and just sort of being a journalist back here and following the news cycle as I've got older and older, just sort of fallen in love with how they cover the game and how big probably the news cycle is over there. So it's all culminated in a love for the EPL, and that's what sort of took me on the trip to head over to Europe.
Well, just on that trip over to Europe and being a journalist here in Australia, I suppose we're all just a bit interested in what the difference in sports journalism is compared to Europe and how they cover games and whether there's more of a bias depending on where you go compared to here in Australia. Just want to get your thoughts on what the main differences were, or if it's actually just quite the same.
I definitely think they're quite a bit more ruthless over there. Like, they don't hold back in their opinions on players. I think the journalists, probably don't hold back. Here, we probably don't go as personal on the players, and you even look at the player wives and stories that spin out of that. You go back to the Rooney Vardy situation in the last 6 months. I know we've had similar over here, but it just seems like it's quite a bit more intense over there. Every match has got player ratings, so that they're quite critical on if a player hasn't performed, whereas you look here in Australia, we tend to focus out of the matches on the good performances. During the week, when there's a bit of controversy around, sure, that gets covered, but out of the match day and purely on the matches, I think here it's focused on the wins and the positive player performances, rather than over there, if a player has a bad match, they wouldn't want to be reading the press too much that week, I don't think.
For sure. Well, we've gone on about this Euro tour, but we actually haven't asked the obvious question, and that was like, what games did you go to, and was there a certain highlight moment or match-wise?
So being a Man United supporter, I was able to get a ticket for the Man United Man City match at the Etihad, and sat with the United fans. Probably talking to a few mates. I don't know what you boys think. Maybe their best win in 2 or 3 years to go to the Etihad and knock them off when United have been struggling quite a bit. They were 2-0 up. City equalised late and were able to hold on, and we actually had to stay in the ground for 30, 40 minutes after the match just because of that whole rivalry, and didn't want the United fans spilling out onto the concourse after the match. So that was pretty special, and something I'll never forget. But just the energy at Crystal Palace was pretty cool, and the class of Chelsea when they beat Aston Villa was also up there as well.
Did you do the thing where you go to every game and you pick up a jersey for every team, or?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you do the thing where you go to each game and you pick up a jersey from every team?
Oh, absolutely. I did get a jersey. I get a scarf or a cap or something like that. So I don't think I can replace the Man United jersey. But going around Europe, I don't know what you both think, but I don't think you'd be wearing too many EPL teams' colours. But I picked up a bit of Barca memorabilia when I went there, and a bit of Bayern Munich stuff, so that sort of thing. But definitely just try and stick with the Man United gear.
Yeah. So just on those games, having myself never actually been to Europe or a Premier League match as of yet, I'm interested in the fans and what the atmosphere of the game's like, and who was the craziest? Did you get into any sort of interesting situations? Because I know that they're a lot more hostile over there when it comes to the support. So I was just more interested in what that was like and what you felt sitting at the game.
So the Crystal Palace game was off the charts in terms of it was a Monday night game for them, so it was a standalone game on Sky Sports. So over there, obviously, the broadcast has a big impact on what happens with the fixture that week. So Crystal Palace were playing Bournemouth that week, and you could really sense the fans were up for it. It was actually the first night. Sorry, I say Sky Sports. That was actually the first night that Amazon's Prime had bought into the EPL.
Oh, yep.
And the Crystal Palace fans actually brought banners into the match saying, I can't remember the exact wording, but they're basically canning the Amazon Sport, because over there, it's not like here with the AFL with broadcast. You've got to almost have 3 different subscriptions if you want to watch your team play. You've got your Sky Sports, you've got your BBC stuff you've got to pay for, and then you've got your Amazon Prime. So the fans are actually hitting out, going to the matches using banners to hit out at the, the administrators to say that they've had enough. And I found the Crystal Palace fans to be probably as intense as any as I saw. They call them the Ultras. There's probably 400, 500 of them that sit behind the goals at Crystal Palace's ground and Selhurst Park, and they all wear black. It's quite a good energy. Talking to a few fans that were sitting around us, we were lucky enough to be sitting not far, and they tend to move the fans each season depending on where they think there needs to be more energy in the crowd. So if they think that they can move those 400 guys to a different part of the ground to bring a bit more energy, that they'll do that. The other thing, having been to a few games now, it's staggering to see the demographic of the people there. So you see quite a lot of males between early 20s right up to 50s, 60s, but you don't see many females and certainly not many kids. So it's definitely quite different to something you experience over here, especially with the A-League. You see quite a few families getting along, but over there, the season ticket holders are so hard to come by that it's quite often those passionate male fans in their 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
I guess you really get that sense that the fans are going to battle just as much as the players over there. Just one last question on the trip overall. If there was someone planning a similar trip to yourself throughout Europe, what advice would you give them, whether it be where to go or what sort of attitude to take with them or anything like that?
Definitely try and buy your tickets as early as you can. The later you buy your tickets, the more expensive they get, and try and hit up fan pages. I found getting tickets was the best way through Twitter pages or Facebook supporter pages. People often, those season ticket holders are trying to on-sell their ticket. You might have to pay a little bit more than face value, but people will buy tickets in advance and then realise they can't go to matches, so they're keen to on-sell those tickets. Definitely wear the home colours of the home team. I had an incident where I was on the train from London to Manchester the morning of the City United game, and I had my United jersey on, thinking it'll be fine to wearing that on the train from London to Manchester. I'll just put a jacket on when I get to Manchester. But I actually had a bloke on the train come and discreetly tell me to put a jacket on the train. So make sure you wear the colours of the team that is the home club that day. That's pretty important. And I just think embrace it. Try and get there early to matches. There are times when you get rushed and you sort of don't get to soak it up. But as much as fun as it is watching the players play in the match, the getting down pitch side to watch the warm up is also pretty cool. And just seeing the players and the skill they've got.
For sure. Well, just to continue with the Man United trend, it's very rare these days you meet a Man United fan who doesn't have an opinion on the current state of the club. So I'm not sure how detailed you look into every sort of play on the pitch, but where do you see Man United as a club? What are your initial thoughts to anything related to Man United?
Well, just watching the game yesterday morning, definitely they lack a playmaker, and the whole Paul Pogba situation is just totally bizarre now. That it looks like all signs are pointing to him leaving the club this January. But you look in that central midfield, Scott McTominay is injured. They had to go in central midfield with Fred and Andreas Pereira, which is pretty skinny if you ask me. Daniel James on the wings, still sort of learning his way, and then Marcus Rashford hardly fired a shot against Arsenal. So I'd love to see them get a Christian Eriksen type playmaker in the midfielder. I know there's talk that he might go to Real Madrid and maybe even in the summer transfer window, but just that central midfielder that can pull the strings a little bit, because I think that's what they're lacking. They've got the firepower up forward. When Martial and Rashford are well serviced, I think they can score, but that central midfield is lacking a little bit at the moment. And as much as it pains me to say, having watched Solskjaer score for fun for United, I think there's some serious doubts now around him as manager. Everything you read suggests Pochettino is still in the thoughts of the management, and I don't know about what you boys think, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Poch lead United into the next phase.
Ooh, that's big. I think we're a couple of United fans here on the podcast as well. I don't know if we should be saying that on air, but yeah, you nevertheless, we do keep very much in touch with United. Just a bit of a question on that Eriksen sort of trend. If you had a pick of a bunch from players in the Premier League this season who you could bring to United in January or in the winter transfer window, who would that be? Because I know Damon and I and Sammy as well have all sort of agreed that if anyone, it would probably one of the first choices would be the likes of James Maddison from Leicester.
Yep.
So I guess who's on your who's on your shopping list?
Yeah, he'd be up there for sure. A goal scorer midfielder that can push forward, and he scored a pearler the other night, James Maddison. The other one that was on United's books a couple of years ago that I saw live and I thought was a fantastic player, and probably one of the best players I saw live in Europe was Wilfred Zaha, played for Crystal Palace.
Nice.
I reckon he's a star, and if you could put him on the left wing and to run at defenders like he does, I think that'd be pretty cool. So maybe a star wingman, and then maybe a midfielder that scores like a Maddison or a Christian Eriksen, someone that can that pull the strings in the midfield.
Yeah, for sure. I'd also look at Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen. He's one of my favourites, I think.
Jack Grealish, if you can pull him away.
There's definitely a few options for United. Looking at a more wider view of the Premier League, obviously you've had first-hand experience over there. What's the vibe like over in the UK? Do people think that the league is over? Do people have certain opinions about teams? What was the major things you picked up whilst over there?
Yeah, I think people are coming around to the fact that Liverpool have got the league well and truly sewn up. I just don't. I personally don't think that it really impacts too much. Watching games in pubs and speaking to a lot of people, and the way that the broadcast is structured, people sort of tend to only watch their teams. And what we've got here in AFL, obviously the matches are spread out over the weekend and structured so that you can watch as many games as you want. Over there, quite a lot of the matches are 3 p.m. kickoffs on a Saturday, so it's physically pretty hard to watch every match. And a quick side note to that, I'm not sure if you realise, but there's not, on those 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturdays, it's actually illegal for them to show them on TV, so it actually forces people to go to the matches and support the lower league. So, if Liverpool have a big match against Leicester on a Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m, you actually can't watch that in a pub anywhere. You can't watch that on your TV at home unless you get involved in one of those illegal streams. So I think it's great for the growth of the whole sport. And something that really blew me away as well is how big the championship is over there. I know we here in Australia tend to focus on the top flight and quite a bit, but Leeds are getting quite a bit of momentum over there, and I reckon it'll be great to see them come into the Premier League next year. They'll bring quite a following with them, I reckon.
Well, our last guest, Richard Bayliss, the director of sport at Optus Sport, has been a huge Leeds fan for probably 20-odd years now, and he had the opportunity to go to Ellen Road, and he told us about the experience, and he said it was an experience like no other. The atmosphere in the championship is just absolutely next level.
Yeah, we probably don't embrace it enough here in Australia, just because of the size of the clubs that play in the league.
So just going back to moving forward with the Premier League, how do you, being a sports journalist in Australia and obviously working very much on the AFL and having to keep up to date with that, how do you follow the games when you're back in Australia, and how do you get up for them? Do you record them? How do you find time to keep so up to date with the Premier League?
Yeah, I was pretty shattered when Fox Sports lost the rights. I reckon it was so easy, and I know Optus is easy in itself, but being able to watch those 11 p.m. midnight kickoffs with mates on the TV, more people have Foxtel than they do Optus Sports. I reckon that was pretty important for Australian fans. When Fox Sports lost the rights, I don't know about you boys, but I felt that it sort of dropped off a little bit, but maybe people are coming around to Optus Sports a bit more now. I actually listen to a daily podcast, the BBC Daily. They have quite a few experts on there, different journalists, and find that that's a good way to get insight into the EPL. It's about a 30-minute podcast each day, and they record it each night, so it's available for the morning commute, I guess, in London and for the UK, so that when they wake up 6, 7 a.m, the podcast is there. And I try to watch those games in the early evening, so the 11 p.m, 12 a.m kickoffs, or the 6 a.m, 7 a.m jobs. But those 3 a.m kickoffs are quite tough if you got work. So I try and watch the Optus Sports mini match, the 20-minute match they put together, and I found that's pretty insightful, and you don't miss too much on that.
Oh, just on like how you sort of go about trying to watch as much Premier League as possible in the AFL system, whether it be player, media, coaches. Is obviously you hear the likes of Adam Treloar and Scott Pendlebury talk a lot about the NBA and their love for that. But is there a lot of love for the Premier League in the AFL, or is it such a difficult industry that they sort of stick to the one sport?
Yeah, it's a good point, and you see the guys tweeting and putting up Instagrams about NBA quite a bit, as you say, and the NFL. Your Josh Jenkins, your Tom Lynch from Adelaide, they're massive into the NFL. Maybe the NBA is a bit more sexy now than the EPL with the superstars that they've got. That's something the NBA definitely do better. It's a five-player team competition anyway, so the superstars are going to be more pronounced than the EPL. But maybe it is that time zone that hurts the EPL a little bit, because it's a good point you guys make. There's not too many guys that sort of support the EPL in a big way that you see on social media. Maybe Stephen Canelio, Toby Green, those boys that are often
the boys
talking about their love for the round ball, but outside of that, it's pretty skinny.
Yeah, of course. I think Ivan Maric is probably one, obviously not in the AFL system or player-wise anymore, but I know he is big in the St. Albans soccer club.
He definitely doesn't advertise it like the other boys do.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I don't think he's gone on a world trip. I think Stephen Cornelio was actually at Old Trafford maybe about 12 months ago now to watch the Juventus game. Obviously, he does the Dybala celebration after every goal. So we know he loves the round ball, as you said, Mitch. But other than that, not too much on social media. We just want to wrap this one up with a few quirky little questions we like to ask our guests. I'll start with just one. If you had to, or if you got the opportunity to have a sit-down dinner with any current Premier League player, who would you pick and why? And what sort of questions would you ask?
That's a very good question. Marcus Rashford, I reckon. Just the weight on his shoulders at the moment and how he's leading the line for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. I know United are struggling a little bit now, but it's hard to knock saying that they're still one of the top, let's say top 10 clubs in Europe. And I think the way he's handling that has been sensational. I love following him on social media. It seems like he does quite a bit for the community as well, and then you throw in his commitments for England as well. There's quite a weight on that man's shoulders at the age of 21 or whatever he is now. So he'd be probably first in the queue.
I guess the next one, we couldn't really do an interview with anyone without asking who would be in your EPL five-a-side team.
So David De Gea in goals. You need a goalie.
They don't take corners in five-a-side, so it's all good.
Virgil van Dijk from Liverpool. He's a star. I thought he could have been a sniff for the Ballon d'Or. The way he plays for Liverpool is phenomenal. I mentioned him before, but Christian Eriksen. I'm a massive fan of Christian Eriksen. I love watching him play for Tottenham. How about I chuck Zaha on the left?
Like that.
Rashford as well. What does that leave me with?
One more, I think.
Is that one more?
That's it. That's 5.
Oh, yeah, that is
De Gea, Van Dijk, Eriksen, Zaha, Rashford.
Yep, that's
5.
That's his 5.
Lock that in. All right.
That's slick. I like that. Bit of pace. Very slick.
Mitch, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to get someone such as yourself on the show. We do love interviewing as many people as we can, so it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope you enjoyed your time on the show.
Thanks a lot, boys. Appreciate having me.
Cheers, Mitch.
Thank you. Wow, so how's that for a summer then?
Yeah.
Manchester derby.
He must have loved it.
Must have absolutely had a ball.
I know. Even on off air when we were talking to him earlier today in the build up, or actually like after and before, it was almost like he was saying stuff and then apologising for not saying it on air. So he must have had so much stuff just in his mind, and as you can understand, he must have just like soaking up so much every day.
His brain would have been buzzing, mate. His brain would have been buzzing.
Yeah, to see that Manchester derby as a United supporter would have been an experience like no other.
Especially away from home.
Yeah.
Against probably
2-0 win.
Biggest rivals other than Liverpool.
Wearing the vintage United jersey.
It was just something special for him, no doubt. Yeah. All right, Woody, we're going to wrap this up, but if people want to find your brilliant work on the Instagram, where can they find it?
You can find us on Insta at Premier League Nightclub.
Or you can find us on the Twitter at PL Nightclub. And Sam, should we start?
Snapchat's canned.
Are you canning Snapchat? Do you want to start TikTok then?
No, yeah, let's do a TikTok.
All right,
I'm big on TikTok.
Of course. If anyone's going to be big on TikTok here, it was going to be you.
Yeah, of course. I'm a noob, mate.
You want to be.
I'm basically a 12-year-old girl.
Mate, are you on Gossip Girl?
We're pretty gender fluid here at the
Are you on Gossip Girl for the 4th season? Fourth time?
No, I finished it. Finished it on the plane.
So what's that, 3 times?
Set 2 times.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Alrighty,
sorry.
Let's stop with this.
Don't hate me, mate. It's
rubbish talk.
Best TV show.
Mate, I've seen it as well, though.
Alrighty, and also to anyone listening, obviously everybody listens to our podcast on differing platforms, but if you could really chuck us a subscribe or follow whatever the platform is, it'd really help us a lot. It helps us grow, and obviously as we grow, we can start doing competitions.
Get cooler guests.
Yeah, cooler guests. If you
some pretty cool guests on.
Yeah, that is true. But if you want to comment on the socials as well, which we just told you where you can find them, every chance you'll get a call out or shout out on the pod. So we're always looking to get our listeners involved. and more listeners involved. So other than that, I'm happy to say goodbye to everybody. I hope you had a great start to the year. Woody, goodbye. Enjoy your trip. I hope you have an absolute blast. Hopefully we can talk to you at some point. If not, when you get back, keen to hear all about it.
Have a good one, mate.
Very keen. I'm actually a bit shattered because this is the first podcast. It's going to be the first podcast I've missed.
Yes,
I've been the mainstay, the anchor.
This is true. Now, Sam, we've got to hold up the fort for a couple of weeks.
It's going to be fun, isn't it, David?
It's going to be an absolute ball. Alrighty, everybody, have a great start to your year. I'm out.
Ciao.
Whoop.